We've got an awesome show for you today, so let's get started.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're off to the start of this week without any more holiday interruptions, thankfully. Fake holidays are especially annoying because they're fake. Holiday, holy day. Folks, you know what's going to be a great holiday? When all of this is exposed and we go through all the SHTF and we're done. But that's a decade or more from now, right? That'll be a huge celebration. But right now, you and I have to deal with the here and the now. Where are we, folks? We're still in the beginning stages of SHTF kicking off. We're in, phase 3 of SHTF. I mean, it's so confusing. How do you categorize it? How do you quantify the chicanery that's been going on between the banking system and the globalist cartels, right? And the fight against them and the use of fraud and deceit, right? We had the QE crash, massive crash, and then the crash again in the end of 2019, and then Cerveza bug in 2020. And now we have this war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, it appears by some accounts that Russia is not only winning, but is basically won. Will NATO and the West back off and follow the Kissinger plan of ceding defeat? Or will they push harder as they're showing us with Lithuania? What does this have to do with you and me? What does this have to do with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense? Well, it actually has everything to do, even though the fighting right now is a world away. But it does affect us on a daily business. It affects the attitude of nations around the world. And truly, folks, we have gone from nations trying to, especially the United States, live independently and having a little from here and a little from there, right? Working with other countries to supplement our standard of living. Instead, it has turned into we rely on everyone and any one piece missing in this picture of importing goods and very specialized products into this country. The whole system crashes. And this has been discussed a lot. So now we've got this world war. And it is a world war with communications, information, misinformation, psychology. All of these things are going on, right? Plus kinetic fighting in Russia. Now, Russia appears to be winning big time in Ukraine. And what they said from the very beginning, what they stated was this is an existential threat to Russia. That's what Putin has made very clear, that it's an existential threat. Meaning, if Russia loses, then Russia is lost. And they become a victim of this globalist game. Now, Russia has been in a struggle for its existence many times, and it always seems to win, usually because Russian winter kills the enemy, right? We had World War I and World War II. We had the Soviet Union, but that was the Cold War. Once again, cold, right? But that was a that was a different kind of war. Russia, though, came back from that. They weren't invaded, and they never accepted Western banking cartels owning their country by financing it. Consequently, Russia's been sanctioned and treated like the proverbial redheaded stepchild. But this move to put NATO, to expand NATO into the Russian stronghold by getting into nations like Estonia, Latvia, and of course, Lithuania. This move to get into Ukraine was the last straw, right? And Russia is now ready to fight for its very existence as a free nation. And they're winning at this stage, right? German TV is saying that it is obvious, it is increasingly apparent that, well, Europe, the global economic cartels are in denial. Russia has won in its military moves. They're strategically taking pieces of Ukraine away from Ukraine that want to be independent, and they're pushing Ukraine out. Now, Wolfram Weimer, he's this journalist in Germany, obviously, or should be obvious. He says, I am afraid we are now faced with a situation where we now have to face an uncomfortable truth. And that is that Russia has won this war. Now our chancellor is working with this language template. Russia must not win this war. Ukraine must win. Right? It continues. I'm just wondering where this is headed politically, because in fact, Russia has practically conquered the Donbass in just a matter of a few days. The area gains are huge. They are about as big as Holland and Belgium put together. The land connection to Crimea is there now. That means, how is Russia supposed to lose this war now? Okay. He went on to say that Ukraine doesn't have the strength, even though they've gotten billions of dollars from the United States and other nations, and incredible amounts of military hardware, support, equipment, food, etc. Right? The entire structure, folks, of Europe, and especially Eastern Europe, is about to change. Right? And it changed back, 30 years ago with the fall of the Soviet Union. It changed then. I mean, it has changed and it continues to change, and it always does. But I think we get into this normalcy bias where we think nothing can change and nothing has ever changed. And it's always been like this. No, things, it just depends on your perspective. You step back and you go, oh yeah, it's always changing. And you step forward. In the last 5 years, nothing changed until this spring. Really. But what is happening now, folks? Are they going to allow Russia to win and get out of Ukraine? Or are they going to continue to harass Russia forever militarily by fighting a proxy war using Ukraine? Or will Russia switch gears and go after Kiev and take out the capital, take out their bureaucratic structure, take out their power grid, take out their communications? Russia can do that, and they haven't. If they wanted to crush Ukraine, literally just grind them into powder, it could have been done long ago. But that's not the war they've been fighting. The war they're fighting is a support to free Eastern Ukraine, to allow those nations to come into existence, separatist nations. That has been their effort. They could change and say, okay, this now is no longer about Eastern Ukraine. It's about continuous harassment. In addition to that, we have Lithuania trying to cut off Kaliningrad. And that is becoming a very, very sore subject for Russia in just a few days. And by sore, I don't mean that people are dying. The people are panicking, they're worried, and Russia's pissed about it. Additionally, Ukraine has attacked an oil platform, offshore oil platform of Russia. They're continuing to attack Russia, and you could make the claim, hey, they're at war. They should be allowed to attack wherever they want. But again, if you step back or maybe step forward and look at things in a very narrow, specific way, Russia is not going after Ukraine as a nation. They're going after the Ukraine military that's in Eastern Ukraine. And they're trying to get them out of there. They're not going after Ukraine as a nation, and they could. Right? This is the equivalent of one of your bedrooms being infested with fleas. And so you go into that bedroom and you light off a bunch of flea fog bombs, right? But you don't want to shut down the rest of the house, right? You just want them out of that one room, right? Well, it appears that, maybe the problem is bigger for Russia. It is an existential threat. This idea of NATO, right, moving into Ukraine, and this idea of freeing a couple of sectors of Ukraine that are heavily Russian populated anyways, and they want to be independent. This war could go a lot wider with a few mistakes made, with more prompting from NATO in London and DC and Brussels. Right? You and I. How does this affect you and I? We need to be prepared for this to get stupid. If there's one thing government has demonstrated, they are very stupid. Or you could say they're risk takers, and you and I, our families, our lives, our economy, our world are inconsequential to their decision. We're an acceptable collateral risk that we can be damaged, and well, it's for the greater good. Yeah, the greater good. Another Marxist term. Well, it's for the nation. We should take these risks and pay these prices for the nation. I don't see the American benefit. I don't see the nation's benefit in Ukraine. I just don't see it. So it must be, shall we say, personal to the people in charge, the people in power, the wealthy. And that, I think there's a case much stronger for that. And that being the case, we're already an acceptable loss if that road has to be traveled. We're already factored in and forgotten. So we must be prepared with everything we need to deal with SHTF getting worse. And I suspect it will get far worse. I want to thank you for coming to Subscribestar. I hope you're enjoying the benefits of getting those news stories, videos, and information that we have here on everything that's going on in the world that, censorship, mainstream media, government, that they don't want us talking about and hearing about and knowing about. I want to thank all of you, the great supporters on this network, for helping make and continue to make this availability of information happen. You guys have done it. Thank you again. I'll be back with more perspectives and more reasoning behind, right, what is happening and why you need to be prepared, because chance favors the prepared mind. Semper Fi. Godspeed.